So guys, we have Brother Elias Marechal with us today. He is a Trappist monk at the Monastery of the Holy Spirit in Conyers, Georgia. A true spiritual seeker, his spiritual journey has unfolded over the past 40 years. His life has been devoted to meditation, which has included a year of intense meditation practice and instruction in Majorca, Spain, and Switzerland, and a long, close relationship with Father Thomas Keating. He draws from the richest of Christian mysticism while embracing the beauty of the world's many contemplative traditions. Elias was educated at Notre Dame, go Irish, and the Georgetown School of Foreign Service, and is the son of a diplomat who served in the Belgian embassy in Washington, D.C. We really appreciate Brother Elias being with us, and I just want to say real quick, I think what we're going to do is Brother Elias is going to start to speak, and then, after 20 minutes or so, or whenever the Spirit moves him, he's going to stop and see if we have any questions. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat to me, Joe McCann. Chat them to me and I will ask, and then in the end we'll open it back up if you'd rather not do that. But Ed, can I just say one more thing real quick? I should have said this before, I'm sorry. We are recording this, so if you don't want, we keep this for ourselves. We'll put it on our website. But if you didn't want yourself to be recorded, please just take yourself off the screen, okay? And if you have questions, go ahead and chat them to me. And without any further ado, Brother Elias, thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, thank you for coming. Goodbye. It was great. A great audience and great group. I'll always remember it. So, I'm off to a good start or a bad start? Anyway, thank you very much for having me. I certainly have always admired contemplative outreach, the William Manager, and Thomas Keating, of course. And you have contributed so much to the world, so very much. When Don Thomas, we call him Dom, he means abbot, Thomas Keating, left Spencer to go to snow mass, I said, I told him, which others have, I'm sure, that I felt that it was a huge move for the world, that the world would be benefiting so much by him. He tried to present centering prayer to various active religious groups, but it was not well received because they felt they already had their own way, and so he just turned to the people outside. He said the housewives made the best contemplatives that he could find, which is, I'm not surprised at all. So, what am I going to do today? I got to figure that out. So, okay, I want to start off by, there was a meeting with the Dalai Lama a number of years back, maybe 10, of educators. And the question put to them by the Dalai Lama was, what do you see as one of the greatest hindrances to your students' progress in spirituality? And the answer came from the primary educator who took the microphone. He said, self-hatred. Whoa. Well, yeah, the Dalai Lama didn't have the slightest idea what that meant, because that's not it's not in the Tibetan culture. So it took 10 minutes or 15 for the interpreter to finally explain to the people, to the Dalai Lama, what that word meant. And then when he finished, the interpreter came back to the mic and he said, His Holiness is not coming back. He's so shocked to hear that. He said he doesn't understand how, when you have a great sun shining inside you, you could hate that. And so he left. He went away. Now, Eddie Hillison, I don't know if you've heard of her. She was a beautiful, wonderful young woman imprisoned in a Nazi death camp. And from inside that corner of hell, she wrote this: "My inner landscape consists of great, wide plains, infinitely wide, with hardly a horizon in sight, with one plain merging into the next." That's reality, the reality of the beauty of the inner landscape, which all of us have, every one of us. Then you had Rumi. You've heard of Rumi? A lot of you have. Poet in the 15th century, I think. He said, "I am bewildered by the magnificence of your beauty, and I yearn to see you with 100 eyes." That's beautiful. And that is looking into the interior and the exterior of human beings. Okay? And so I think the theme, that there is a theme of this dialogue, which we're going to be talking together, is our interior beauty. And the thing is, I think most of you realize that in our culture, not much emphasis has been placed on the beauty that we are on the inside. So you hear a lot about brokenness, which is true. We have some brokenness and this and that, the other, and oh me, oh my, so and sinful and so forth and so on. But very rarely do I hear a whole lot about our beauty, and that is not admissible by Jesus and the servant. And so, how do you regain your beauty or discover it? Well, I think one of the ways is centering prayer, because it brings you in touch with the beauty inside, most definitely. Then you've got things like breathing prayer, using the breath. That's a very powerful way of bringing one to inner stillness. And inner stillness is very, very important. The Desert Fathers especially spoke about stillness is absolutely incredibly important. Then you have things like what I call the loving kindness meditation, which I'll talk about later, and a few other things like that. But there are available means out there. Okay. So now I want to have you join me, or I join you in a meditation, which I call the meditation of the breath. And the whole idea behind it is that the breath is God's gift to us moment by moment, and our gift back to God is that precisely that gift. Right? Okay, so breath comes from God. I'd like you to celebrate that back to God. It's God's name to us. And close the eyes. And I would like you to relax as much as possible. Relax the jaw and have the teeth slightly apart. Breathe from the abdomen. Breathing from the chest, may trigger anxiety. And when we inhale, the abdomen expands as the rib cage rises. When we exhale, the abdomen contracts and the rib cage returns to its original position. You got that? Okay. While you are relaxing, whatever, let me read you just very quickly. Did you know that if you drop a piece of metal, it will take an hour to descend 11,000 meters before hitting bottom? Dynamic energy increases at each successive level of water. It swells further the closer you get to the ocean floor. Now, I had a friend who is now a monk, by the way, who used to be a deep sea diver. And he told me that he felt that this ever-deepening power, as he gradually sank to the bottom of the Romansh, he felt the power as he gradually sank to the bottom of the Romansh Gulf, which is the third deepest spot in the Atlantic Ocean, nearly 5 miles deep. As he came close to the ocean floor, the silence overwhelmed Garrett, and he thought, this is what God must be like. As our own experience of inner silence deepens, stillness grows inside us, even in the midst of turmoil. A saint called this stillness the pure peace and abode of the heavenly birth. Okay? All right. Everybody quiet now? All right. What I'd like you to do, please, is put your attention on the tip of your nostrils, and let that attention be a way of welcoming the breath. When the breath, a gift from God, arrives, let it move quietly up the nasal passage and settle at a point between the eyebrows. Wait there until it is time to take another breath, and just return to the tip of the nostril and repeat the process. If you like, you could whisper at a very faint thinking level the word in as you inhale and out as you exhale. If that will help you for your concentration. But it has to be at a faint thinking level, very quiet, very, very quiet. And okay, let's just hold on for a minute. And I'm going to ring the gong 3 times. And listen, please, to the sound of the gong as it descends further and further into silence. Silence, 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 silence. The expansion point. Okay, are you ready? Keep your eyes closed, but listen, please. Okay, let's slowly open it. So, usually I do this with groups, and I ask how it went. So
who would like to give Brother Elias some reaction to that experience?
Marge Henry here from Citrus County. Have a question. 3 different sounds of the bell for me. First one was jarring and like shrill,
Oh,
and
my.
then the last one was very gentle. Is that as we go deeper?
Well, I didn't mean for it to sound shrill. You should hear what it sounds like when I do a shrill sound. But no, it just meant just give you an idea of what happens in your own interior life with prayer. When you go quieter and quieter and quieter. It's very, very important. We can immediately have deep prayer with, let's say, Our Father or something like that, if we will recite it internally, have quiet thinking instead of Our Father or and notice what's happening there. Hallowed be thy name. It's just descending in sound. See that level and level? Now, hook that up with my description of going deep in the ocean. And see how important that is. Am I answering the question?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your specificity, the mirroring of going in the ocean, and then the end of silence, silence, silence with the bell. That parallel was so helpful to me, as well as the specificity of inhaling at the tip of the nose, bringing the attention, and then out in the forehead. Just deepened my process very quickly.
Oh my.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
A real blessing. Thank you.
And I was acknowledging that the tip of the nose, that my very next breath comes from God, and that inhaling and bringing it up to what I call the third eye, and being able to expand that love out was really beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
What I appreciated is I tend to try to try to take away my distractions outside. But when you were talking to me about just being one with them, because a lot of times I feel like I'm fighting with those distractions, those external noises. I feel like
you feel what with the distractions?
I feel like I'm fighting with them.
Oh, fighting them. Yeah.
And to kind of be more one with those distractions was a new way of looking at it. So thank you.
Well, look, that's important. I assume that you've gotten this teaching in your centering prayer from Thomas Keating, that a distraction can be prayer. Because what's happening is, here you are deep in your centering prayer, and then suddenly you're starting to think of something that's possibly very important. And so then bang, your mind is out there. Now, if you make a decision to come back to the prayer, that is extremely important, right? In other words, you've made a decision for Jesus. So if you have 10 distractions in 10 times, you decide to come back, then that is a very deep prayer, I think, because you're making a decision to return to in the depths of your heart. Does that sound okay? Deep?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Brother Elias, whether we are practicing centering prayer or loving kindness meditations, do you feel that the breath is our most important tool? Also, are there special breathing techniques which should be practiced?
Whoa. That's going to set us up for another 20 minutes. No, breathing is just extremely important. But just to sit there, for example, may not be good for some people. But the breathing brings you deeper and deeper into stillness. Stillness is what is very, very important in this whole process. But again, you use a prayer word. I'm not familiar with central prayer too well, but it's another way of trying to digress a little bit. But again, it's extremely important to, if we are pronouncing interior prayer, that we do it at a very faint thinking level. Okay? Very faint thinking level. Because when you think about it, when Jesus or God communicates with us in any way, 9 times out of 10, it's just a very quiet level of almost a whisper, you know, like with Elijah and so on. But I'm not prepared to really say anything about specific breathing techniques, except it's a good idea, for example, during the day, if you stop for a couple of minutes and breathe in and breathe out, knowing that this is God's gift of breath coming to you, you're sending it back to Him. But if you just do that 2 or 3, 4 times a day, even for a minute, you're returning to stillness. And stillness is extremely important in the tradition of the Desert Fathers, and also Desert Mothers, also Desert Fathers. So does that make sense to you? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to transition back to you sharing a little bit more. Let's try that. And so I'm going to put you on spotlight, my friend.
Okay. All right. We're back. I want to read you a poem by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans. And I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. So we're talking about depth here, right? That's all. I think in your practice of centering prayer and the rest of what you're doing, I think you will see or are seeing that you're growing gradually deep, deep, deep like the rivers. Okay, now, what's in that depth that we're talking about at the bottom of the river? Does it work? We are, each of us, were born out of a vast, vast silence in the other world. In infinity. We've got at least a couple of prophets talking about how God knew us before we were born. God knew us for all eternity. So as I see it, we've got this vastness inside, this immensity. And in that immensity, we are drawn out and remaining deeply embedded in that vastness. And then we begin to breathe, but we never leave the vastness. It creates a vastness that we are, which is wedded to or connected with God's immense vastness, if that makes any sense. In other words, it doesn't make sense to be saying I'm seeking God when you're already inside God all the time in that vastness. It doesn't make any sense to say God has left me, which some people do when they no longer feel his presence. Now, that's very common. I'm sure a lot of you relating to that, perhaps. But it makes no sense to say God has abandoned me or left me, because it's impossible. If we're inside this vastness, in him we live and move and have our being, then where are we going to go? Where's God going to go? It's not possible. And also remember, St. Paul says that nothing can separate us from the love of God, which means that we're never separate from God. We're always not a part of God and not identical with God, but we are one with God. One, yet two. Okay, otherwise I'll get into pantheism here and I'll be arrested by the Vatican. That's not true. So that's not what I mean. I knew a gentleman recently, a priest, who was sure that God had left him. He was devastated, completely devastated. And I tried to explain to him that whereas he was contacting God through the senses and the intellect, now God was moving him past that, not annihilating him in any way, but going past that into deeper regions of the inner self. And that, with the concentration by God on the inner portion of our being, then that was unfamiliar territory. Perhaps people had never really experienced that level of being. And so, man, what is this? It's a foreign land. I hope this is making sense. If we had an audience back to back, we could clarify some of this. But I didn't know what to do or what to say after a while. And I just said, Ben, who were you before you were born? He said, what do you mean? Who was I before I was born? Who were you? Who were you before you became a priest? Who were you before you did this? Before you identified with this role? Perhaps ascribed to the cultural paradigm that my value and identity depend on what I do, accomplish, and what other people think of me. In other words, giving my eyes away to another and saying, tell me what to do, who I am, and so on, and accomplish it. So that was a very important question for him, but he just didn't quite get it. But that's really important, because who were you before you were born, before you were conceived even? Then that means now we're in the area of formless, unseen, and the whole area of the vastness that we are in the inside. But if a person really sits with that question, it's kind of like, it's very similar to the ancient question, what was your original face before you were born? And I would change that to before you were conceived. Very important. So we have two things here. The world of form, which is transitory, which is changing all the time, impermanent. And then you have the world of the formless within us, right? And that never changes, it's permanent. the world of the change, the changing world, is not what we're going to take with us when we pass over to the next world. It's going to be the world of the informal. Right? Now, I want to read to you something I wrote about impermanence. It's called Looking Out of a Bus Window Heading to Annapolis. Years ago, on a bus heading to Annapolis, I gazed through the window as one after another sign of form drove past me, rushing backwards. A lake lying heavy and black, a tree filling up with wind, small churches with funny names like Shining Biddy Doe, or an aged man in a tattered coat. As the bus rushed ahead, each of these forms disappeared behind the passengers. Now, isn't that how it is for all of us? A slice of form, let's say, exists in the now moment, then slides past us. What happened in that moment no longer exists. Recently, I spoke with a man who kept remembering episodes, painful episodes of his past, of which he was deeply ashamed. He felt as though, although the serious mistakes occurred long ago, he was experiencing a frozen perception of people who lived in that era, and they said, "You have never changed." This hurt him deeply. I asked him to consider what I had just said, that when we move from one moment to another, the preceding moment no longer exists. And I said, "Ben, all that you have described was at one time, but no longer is." You see what happened? Very important. Each day, so much runs to meet us, right? And then there's no more. Thoughts arise and pass away. Long rains come and go. You know that feelings don't last. They edge toward their vanishing point, then disappear like the dark riverbeds that ran past me backwards on a bus heading for Annapolis. It's inevitable. Sooner or later, one by one, great bucks will disappear from forests and woods and never return. Eventually, the wind on our faces will vanish. Then gradually, in no corner of the earth will a wind caress the face. Primitives hidden somewhere will stop dreaming. A tradition which will have lasted for century after century will disappear. And this tradition is just no longer will the tribe assemble at daybreak, every day at daybreak, to hear each person depict his dream. No longer will each native ponder the dream and interpret it. No longer will the dreamer draw light and hope from this wisdom. Instead, he will join his beloved brothers and sisters as they vanish into another world, the one filled with light and the warmth of a vast, indescribable tenderness. Then Calcutta will awaken one day and by evening disappear, along with the sacred beggars whose depths are all ears and all eyes. Now, who would ever believe that Moscow would kneel and weep in the presence of the great consoling Christ and eventually vanish like all the rest? Other big cities will no longer be blessed by a summer, a fall, a winter, and a spring. And people will wonder, what has become of Brazil and its great Amazon? Gradually, men, women, and children will stop imagining great things and slowly fade away and disappear until the faintest trace of life in this world will be no more. Okay?
My name is Karen. I'm from Tallahassee.
Karen?
You're talking about the vast silence, and that that conversation helped me quite a bit because I've been doing centering prayer for about 1.5 years, and I am starting to go into an abyss.
Oh,
And it was starting to concern me or kind of scare me a little bit. But your talking and description of the fast silence really helped me. It helped me to be okay with it. So I'm headed in the right direction.
okay, you sure are.
Thank you.
There's a question here. It's staring me right in the face. It's just gonna scare me. The big thing is, well, I used to teach TM, Transcendental Meditation. So all of you bear with me if that's it. And that's a process where you begin with mantra, and the mantra becomes quieter, fainter, fainter. On its own, nobody's pushing it anywhere. And it's going fainter and fainter and fainter. And suddenly there's more and more quiet. And then there's this quiet. And that scares the daylights out of some people. It just does. Because, you know why? Because they're experiencing what psychology calls innate annihilation anxiety. They feel as though they're falling in the inner self, and then, if I stay this way, I'm going to cease to exist. So it's very scary. Of course, the other element is
I would like to ask a question. We got this from Susan, who I referred to before, but she asked, she wanted to tell you how much she enjoyed the book and your writing. It seemed like poetry in paragraph form to her. I especially appreciated the discussion about our thoughts in silence. It was most helpful to practice looking for the spaces between our thoughts. The concept was very helpful for her. Who or what inspired you to write The Last Dance? Did you meet someone like Inman?
The Last Dance?
Yeah. I think that was a section.
Dancing Method backwards or something like that?
Maybe. I'm just reading this is how she texted it to me.
Well, I spoke about the round dance of the Trinity.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's probably referred to, but that is a very ancient image, especially in Greek Orthodox tradition. The round dance of the Trinity. I'll just happen to open at random to this spot. The ancient Greek fathers depict the Trinity as a round dance, an event that has continued for 6,000 years, and 6 times 6,000, and beyond the time when humans first knew time. An infinite current of love streams without ceasing, to and fro, to and fro, to and fro, gliding from the Father to the Son, and back to the Father in one timeless echo. This circular current of Trinitarian love continues night and day inside its unique Narnia within Narnia. The orderly and rhythmic process of subatomic particles spinning round and round at immense speed echoes this paradise. So I think that's where you probably asked about. It wasn't my invention, it just came from the Greek fathers. Okay.
Beautiful.
So,
Phyllis asked a good question. If you were to leave us with one piece of advice during these tumultuous times, what would your advice be?
Well, Thomas Keating was asked, how do you expect to speak in temperance in this crazy world of noise and theft and chaos? And, oh my goodness, what's going on? And he said, slow down and pray more. and I say be, which means the prayer of being, because what's happening, we were born, and we were born out of the vastness of God, and we were being, you know, I don't want to get philosophical here, but it was not action, it was simply being. So we were inside the one who said, I am who am. Okay? And this is really hard to go into, but like in centering prayer, you're not doing anything, and I hope you're not thinking about things. And if you are, then chasten back to God. But your prayer is more the prayer of being. Okay, I am inside the I am of God. If that makes any sense. I am within the I am of God, which is vast and limitless. So I say, don't inevitably, and maybe already, there's the experience of not thinking about God or doing that, or devotion, which are very good in themselves, of course, but simply letting go of everything and just being with God. We have a monk here who said that when he was growing up as a child, he loved to sit on his aunt's lap. And he didn't want her to be praising him or giving me affirmation or any of those things. He just simply wanted to be on the lap and to experience this warmth and tenderness of the aunt. So that's an example of what I'm thinking about. I hope that's helpful. I just think just be careful to do inner work, and centering prayer, the breathing, and so forth. I didn't have a chance to talk about loving kindness meditation, which I'll say real quick. I have today been freed from the shackles of the wheelchair. I had to be in a wheelchair for several months because of a severe problem with my foot. And in that time, in my infirmary room, great things happened in the sense that I was forced to slow down. I was very active in the monastery. So, I had several jobs and was director of training for the new people and so on. But where I had, it was like we called in ancient monasticism a cell, which was a room. Now we call it a room. But in those days, cell was chela, which derived from chelum, meaning sky or heaven. So our cell was a heavenly abode. So in this heavenly abode that I experienced for several months, or even past that, because I've been there in the cell for like 2 years so far. I learned to be very centered on everything I was doing. In other words, staying in the present moment. This is mindfulness. And I had to do that, especially because I was in the cell primarily because I fell quite a bit. And one day I fell 3 times. And so I had to go about so slowly. But that gave me an enormous amount of depth and of being in the moment. The other thing was that I used a phrase which I applied to every situation, was allow things to be as they are. And that allowed me to be present to whatever was. I think we have a question for you if you want to move it.
My name is Bill Lang from Tallahassee, Florida.
Sure.
One of my spiritual let's call it heroes, is Abraham Heschel.
Oh, yeah.
And he says when he's discussing surrounding to stillness, one of his quotes is, "We do not refuse to pray, we abstain from it."
We do what?
Not refuse to pray, we abstain from it.
Oh, abstain from it.
Do you have a reaction to that, Brother Elias?
Well, I think that's tied up with the culture, the Western culture, which for a long time was in preference to the intellect. I think, therefore, I am. So, and more, the psyche of the Western person considered more and more the formless or the unseen vastness within us to not be relevant. It just wasn't relevant. And also silence was not seen, was seen less and less and less as the value. So I think that's what is going on there. I think they abstain from it because they don't see any value in it. Does that answer your question? No?
Yeah, yes, it does, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The thought is afflictive when you're carried out of your deepest self during centering prayer, and your thought is afflictive. What that means is afflictive means when it fails to sustain or increase life and weakens it. These thoughts may look ferocious, but in reality, they are shy. They don't like to be watched. Often, they vanish when they sense that they are the focus of attention. The hospice worker and writer Stephen Levine cautions us to be careful to relate true and afflicted thought rather than from within the thought. If we act from the inside, we risk getting entangled in its bowels. Very important. And according to Scripture, to name a person, situation, or thing is to have power over it. When we name an afflictive thought twice, its strength weakens or vanishes. This is important for us. For example, if I feel an impulse to judge, then I will say, usually in trouble, judging, and that helps to diffuse the power of that impulse. Asking the afflicted thought a question strengthens the internal boundary between us and the thought. You are over there on the other side of the boundary, and I over here on this side, continuing to be who I am. Now, we may befriend afflicted thoughts and feelings that appear at our inner door, welcoming them with courtesy and respect as we would a guest. Would you like some tea? This means being with the thought or thoughts. Notice again, being with the thought or thoughts, not fighting it. We may ask, what message might you be bringing me? We may even give a name for a thought or mood, such as Maud or the old Proximity. So I hope that is helping. The last thing I would say is in the desert of Egypt, where the desert fathers were, they noticed that young people coming to them from the university in Alexandria in Egypt would stay with them, but they would continue to stay at the same plateau. And what they discovered, of course, is that their minds were jammed with thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. And they said, what are we going to do about this? So what they came up with in Bagrius was a brilliant mind to come up with this. He said, you know, Jesus did not fight the devil. What he did was to quote scripture. So an indirect way of dealing with these things. So where did they come up with? They came up with the name of Jesus. Jesus is powerful, we know that. And so when they would teach, continually with these thoughts, they would whisper, notice I said whisper, at a fine, fine thinking level, the name Jesus, or Yeshua, or abbreviation would be yeah, as a yes. And so by doing that, that tamed the thoughts more and more. So that's important to think too, that the power of the name of Jesus is incredible, as most of you know. And so invoke Jesus in that way, at a very faint thinking level, is very powerful.
I appreciated your metaphor of the rock falling into the ocean, because it confirms too another teaching by Jim Finley about contemplation, about falling into the unfathomable abyss of God's love.
Yeah.
So, and his was a rock falling into the ocean, landing on a ledge, sitting there for a while, and then being taken up by the currents and then drifting off again, and just keep that continuous falling. But it's really, it's just a beautiful metaphor for falling into God's love. So
Yeah.
Thank you for confirming that for me.
Thank you. Jim Finley is definitely the person you want to read, because he emphasizes the being aspect of prayer. Right? There's another metaphor. A woman is by an ancient well, and she drops a rock into it. The rock keeps falling and falling and falling, but no echo comes back. It just keeps falling and falling and falling. And that was 100 years ago, and it's still falling. So that's the enormous I don't know what you call it, but it's the eternity of God.
I am a big practitioner of welcoming prayer, and your recent comments about dealing and accepting with the reality of what's in the moment. I found the welcoming prayer to be such a mainstay of my day, and it's very transformative. I was looking for your comments about the efficacy of welcoming prayer.
Well, can you describe what you mean by the welcoming prayer?
The welcoming prayer, the 3 steps are feeling a particular reaction in your body, whether it's pleasurable or stressful situation,
Okay.
to welcome the reality of what's in your moment, in your body. And the end of it, which I love, is I let go of my desire for security, for affection, for control, and embrace this moment as it is. That's what I do. And I find it, I can't even imagine centering prayer, which I do, without that in the moment.
Right.
Comfort, strength.
I'm with you, because that's precisely what I do. To be in the moment is to accept things as they are. That's not to condone anything that may be wrong, but it simply means accepting things as they are. And knowing that, well, let me see, any of them are possibilities for inner transformation, for awakening further. In our Cistercian monastic tradition, we have the very wonderful teaching on alternation of experience. And St. Bernard of the 12th century said that what we all know is that at any moment, an experience can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And to accept either the three as they are and work with it, with and in God, from our vastness, and see what the Lord will do with that. Is it so far? We're on the same page. Okay.
Brother Elias,
Yeah.
this is Nancy from Tallahassee, and I appreciate and it dwells within me everything you've said. But one particular thing is that you said we do not need to seek God, and so often a group or someone will say, "I'm a seeker." And now I, of course, we always know that God is within us and without, and we are one. But now I will never say again, I am a seeker, because you have pointed out there's nothing to seek. It's there all the time. So I thank you for that clarity.
It's like me looking for my nose. It's just right there, always looking. And it's not to denigrate the whole thing of search, because we're always open to further awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Awakening. So it's not out there. Oftentimes the search is for in the world of form. Like I'm looking for something out there, whether it be, I don't know, I can't describe liturgy and so forth and so on, which is very important. But let's not forget that we're both the form and the formless.
Mm-hmm.
And,
thank you very much, brother. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I have a comment. Thank you, Brother Elias. This is Anita from Tallahassee.
Anita, hi.
Hi. I really appreciated the image of riding on the bus and looking out the window and seeing the things that would pass by that you wouldn't see them exactly as they were before, and thinking of conversations with people, relationships, things that come and go, and the preciousness of every moment and every encounter that we have. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. But the whole idea is everything is changing, is passing on. You know? But because we have to be both in the world of form and the formless, and we can't neglect either one. But we have to understand which is what it is, and the other what it is also. But the world of formless is where we act out of. And in other words, we act out of the vastness of God, in our vastness, or immensity, or whatever word you want to come up with. But we're always acting from within outwards, and not outwards to within.
Brother Elias, this is Linda Boland.
Yeah, Linda.
It's wonderful to see you, and I'm so grateful for this experience. And so thank you so much. I just wanted to ask a question about something that's come up. I'm older and self-isolating, and trying to pray more. It's instinctive, I guess, that if you have the luxury of being able to self-isolate and have a simple life like I do now, I find that people are asking me to intercede for them. Would you say some prayers for me? And some of these people are very ill. This is what they say to me. Would you pray while you're praying? Will you pray for me? And so I wanted to ask you a question about intercessory prayer. I do it rather instinctively now. Sometimes I have a couple people that are very ill right now, and I want to try to accompany them in my own contemplative spirituality. I just instinctively take them inside of me early in the morning, and then, every time I come to pray formally or even in my centering prayer, bring them inside with me just intentionally. I don't feel like a lot of words are necessary. I don't know if I'm right in that. Can you tell me the best way to pray deeply in an intercessory way?
Well, you've already answered that.
Oh, okay.
Because, to me, for example, we pray for this brother or this cause, and to me, I just have to bring that to my attention, and then be silent.
Yeah.
Be with the need. To be with the need, just by allowing it to be what it is. In other words, turning it over to God, but without saying, I turn this over to you. It just would be that. Just say it, and don't come back to it too often, but just allow it to be in your awareness. And I think that helps a lot.
Thank you so much.
And also, by the way, I feel that any spiritual practice that we do, it's very important to do two things. And the first is to thank the Spirit for guiding us in this practice on that particular moment of day. And the second thing is to offer the graces that come to us in prayer or meditation for the benefit of people who are troubled or afflicted in some way. I myself will offer my graces, the graces that have come to me, for example, through this gathering, for the benefit of people who are being tortured. And at this very moment, people are being tortured in excruciating ways. And to just offer this to them, I think it really makes a difference. I really do. So keep that in mind. Move it beyond yourself and ourself. Okay, we're in this beautiful meditation and so forth, but know that it's going to be benefiting other people in some way. Okay?
Yeah, Brother Elias, I did want to say I have such gratitude for you being open to share with us. I think it's a rare treat for the community out here to be able to hear from someone who's dedicated their life in the way that you have. There's very few people in our world who have chosen the monastic life. And for those of us out here who are contemplatives, to hear what you've learned, what you think about, what you write about, what has come about on your spiritual journey is very valuable and encouraging to us. And so we are truly blessed by what you have shared with us today. So I thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you. Again, thank you